Oh.
I'm just in the corner of a parking lot, and there's like really pretty little areas where you can go have a meeting, but that was taken.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
And see,
When I snuck
everybody,
out of my
Jenny
office.
Josephson is here.
Ah! But only for 5 more minutes.
Hiding in a parking lot from the cops.
That's right. Let's invent narratives.
The fuzz is after her.
A pokey.
She's just too good at podcasting. It's against the law.
I'm hiding out from the podcast police.
The Popos podcast police.
The pod poke.
Oh, God. That's what Popo means.
Popo in each one.
Uh,
Well, if you haven't stopped watching the video yet, we are going to have the regular DTNS show.
what time is it? 1:28. I gotta go do my job. You guys gotta go do your job.
All right, thanks, Jenny
Good job.
Josephson. Thanks for sharing some of your break with us. Goodbye. All right, and now to discuss Mary Meeker.
The many minds of Mary Meeker.
The Mary Minds.
Oh, all right.
Wait. Any questions before we get going? I think we're good.
I think we're good.
I think we're great.
I think we've got the whole world.
We're going to have the best DTNS episode today.
Yeah.
Right now. You know, my wife, before we get started real quick, my wife left for Los Angeles today, even though we live in Los Angeles. That's how bad the traffic is. They're having like a big company offsite in downtown LA, and they're paying for people who live in LA to stay in the hotel so that they don't have to drive there.
Oh my gosh. If that doesn't say it all in one.
So she packed and took an Uber.
Oh, really?
Yes. Because it's just like, forget it. I'm not gonna sit in that traffic.
In LA. That's
in
great.
LA.
Wow.
I mean, it's like 10 miles from our house. LA is pretty vast, right? But still, that should only take 10 minutes on a freeway. Normally.
City founders, they knew exactly what to do.
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah. Don't doubt their wisdom. Okay, you ready to go?
Yep.
Here we go.
Back in the day, people used to get all their news from this box that was bolted to the sidewalk. They'd put a quarter in, and their news would come out. It's amazing how much things change and how much they stay the same. Today, I still get my news from a box, but that box is in my pocket. And now, it only costs a nickel. I went to patreon.com and searched for Tom Merritt, which brought me to the Patreon page for the Daily Tech News Show. There, I pledged $1 a month, which works out to 1 nickel per episode, for all my daily tech news. I encourage you to do the same.
This is the Daily Tech News for Wednesday, June 1st, 2016. I'm Tom Merritt. Joining me today, Mr. Scott Johnson of The Instance, of The Morning Stream, of The World.
Sure. I am the host of The World. Welcome to The World. I hope you all enjoy your stay. I'm doing great. It's an interesting week because we got a chance this week to rest a little bit before the craziness of a week and a half or so until we get E3 and WWDC and a cacophony of things that are going to make this show shine brighter during that week than perhaps all year.
Yeah, the press was very excited this morning about the fact that they got invited to the 10 a.m. keynote at the WWDC on June 13th, which we already knew was happening. But hey, you know what? They got an invite, and it said little things on it, which they can overinterpret about what it means about whether we're going to hear something about Siri. But we know we always get OS 10, iOS updates. We'll probably not get product updates at WWDC. But then right after that, E3 is happening. In fact, at the same time, in some cases, like EA and Bethesda are on June 12th, then Microsoft, PC Gaming Show, Ubisoft, and Sony are all the same day as WWDC. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's weird, and it's also, I think, marks an interesting point in time for both Apple and their own conference and for E3 as a big industry conference for the gaming industry, because there's a lot of unknowns about both right now. There's a lot of sort of iPhone sales have slowed, or the video game industry is shifting, or E3 is not relevant anymore, and all of these questions are extremely interesting to people like us, so I'm really anxious to see how that barn burns down next week.
The Code Conference, which is sort of the heir apparent to the D Conference after All Things D left with the Wall Street Journal's loving embrace and became Recode, is happening. We've got a few things from there. One of them is Mary Meeker's annual Internet Trends report. She is generally spot on, not only about interpreting the statistics of what's happening now, but also kind of pointing the direction of where we think things are going to go next. So Scott and I will look over some of the main things she's found in there and talk about a couple of them in depth after we get to the headlines. Windows Holographic, which is the name of the version of Windows 10 that runs on Microsoft HoloLens, is now available for companies who want to build mixed reality devices, and that's what Microsoft calls the HoloLens. They say it's not all augmented reality, it's not virtual reality, it's a little of both, so they call it mixed reality. The Windows Holographic platform includes the holographic shell and interaction model, so that's the thing that can drive the HoloLens, the perception APIs, and Xbox Live services. And basically, Microsoft would like to see you build a bunch of stuff. Augmented reality, virtual reality, mixed reality, whatever you want. And the Windows Holographic platform will allow those devices to communicate with each other even if they're different kinds of devices. So your VR could communicate with your AR. Interested parties are invited to WinHEC in Shenzhen, November 1st to the 5th. To learn more, Microsoft has been also talking with partners. They got all the names on board: Asus, Intel, AMD, Qualcomm, HTC, Acer, CyberPower PC, Dell, Falcon Northwest. HP is on there, iBuyPower, Lenovo, MSI, and they say many others. We talked about this a little in the morning stream this morning, Scott, and it is interesting to see Microsoft start to turn the HoloLens from a competitor with the Oculus and the HTC Vive, or at least an alternative, to more of a flagship device a la the Microsoft Surface.
Yeah, it feels like a Satya Nadella deal to me, where he's less worried about dominance of a certain platform and a certain narrow piece of market share, and more interested in saying, look, we're talking about, platform agnostic, intercommunication, devices that can talk to each other regardless of what their core competencies may be. So AR people talking to VR people and vice versa, and doing it in a way that is hopefully seamless and easy, and their operating system being sort of a key component of that. That's all extremely interesting to me, because one of the things that's starting to shape up with VR and AR is a lot of camps and a lot of sides and a lot of people shutting down what used to be sort of a lot of talk about openness, and now kind of not so much, and then a lot of hackery happening over here, and it's getting to the point where I would love a big name to step into the space and say, we'd like to bring everything together in some way. Whatever that takes form as, or what that ends up looking like in the end, is difficult to say for now, but I am very excited about what they're talking about.
Yeah, and I think it is interesting, the idea that I could be in virtual reality and have a virtual object that I could then hand to somebody who's wearing a HoloLens, say, and they could take that virtual object that I created in a virtual construction set and put it in a real space, because they're in augmented reality mode, and they're like, look at that. In fact, the video that they made today shows those kind of use cases. It's a woman trying to set up a new retail space, and so all the furnishings and decor are in virtual, but she's in the actual space, and then she shares that with one guy who's in virtual reality, and the other guy who's also got a HoloLens on, but he's like in some special room that allows him to project his own self into her space.
I mean, basically what they're talking about, and that's why I think this is so interesting, is they're talking about potentially a framework not unlike what we have with certain formats in two-dimensional space, like JPEGs or PNGs or graphic formats, text formats, 3D file formats that we can work on a Mac, send to some guy on a PC who sends it to his buddy on a Linux box. That is really all we're talking about, except taking it to that next level. And that kind of interoperability has endless potential for interacting, for collaborating, for doing all the things in 3D and in visualization that we are already doing in 2D on browsers with devices. Yeah. It's really just a step away from that.
We may see several different mixed forms here too, because the platform supports tethered or untethered. It supports translucent or opaque. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they come up with.
Well, they'll like me because I'm pretty translucent. Microsoft is selling 1,500 patents to Xiaomi, along with some cross-licensing agreements. In addition, Xiaomi will install Office, Skype, and other Microsoft software on phones and tablets made by the company. The patents include voice, multimedia, and cloud computing. I mean, I'm not a big patent expert or anything, but 1,500 seems like no small number to me.
It depends. It depends on what they are. You can talk thousands and thousands, like tens of thousands for some companies, but it isn't a small amount for Microsoft to transfer. Like they are selling these patents to Xiaomi, and Microsoft got plenty of patents, so I don't think they're going to hurt from this. The speculation that I've read is that Microsoft was actually trying to get Xiaomi to sign on to their Android licensing scheme, which they have gotten most Android manufacturers to sign on to, and Xiaomi was able to negotiate with them to say, actually, if you want to make more money off of us, you need to help us get outside of China, because even within China, they've been fighting patent disputes. As soon as they look at stepping outside of China, they're waiting for a hammer blow of patent lawsuits. And Microsoft being one of those hammers, this deal does two things. It gives Xiaomi some patents to defend themselves with by saying, well, hold on, we've got patents on things too. And it takes away one of the biggest hammers in Microsoft. And, of course, Microsoft wins because they're trying to be the company that provides the software to all the phones, no matter what operating system is running.
Doesn't that also give them, again, knowing very little about this segment of the market, but does this give them a leg up when trying to penetrate U.S. markets? Because we're talking about U.S. patents here, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, I don't know if they're all U.S. Some of them may be other markets, but yes, this definitely gives Xiaomi the chance to say, okay, well, we know Microsoft isn't going to sue us, and anybody else who might sue us in the U.S., now we've got a little bit of weight to throw around, and we could counter sue or do cross licensing or whatever. AMD's first Polaris-based graphics card is out. AMD had a bunch of announcements at Computex. We're going to talk about most of them. The Radeon RX 480 promises VR-capable graphics, 5 teraflops of performance for $199 starting June 29th. So that could bring down the price of your Oculus or HTC Vive compatible PC quite a bit. The RX 480 will have 36 compute units with GDDR5, 256-bit memory bus, 256 gigabytes per second bandwidth. It'll come in both 4 gig and 8 gig memory configs. We're assuming the 199 only gets you the 4 gig config. It'll have DisplayPort 1.3 and 1.4, HDMI 2.0B outputs, supports HDR video and AMD FreeSync, and it has thermal design power of 150 watts. So it's somewhere around the ballpark of the 1070, but quite a bit cheaper.
Yeah, and I would also argue that if you were going to buy a card today, even a 980 Ti today, you're going to spend $200 or more on that than this price, and this outperforms that card. If you ask me, AMD's way to better compete with NVIDIA, a company whose cards I've bought for years and years and years, they've kind of run out of ways to compete with them. They're good cards. They've always been okay, but here's maybe a way to do it, and that is be a lot less expensive.
Yeah, and for VR support particularly, and that's where they're throwing all their marketing weight, because, yeah, this doesn't necessarily improve in all the spec categories,
Right.
but it improves enough at the price point to say, hey, look, you know, if it wasn't the $700 you spend on the VR headset that was holding you up, it was the $1,000 you'd spend on the new PC, well, now maybe that PC will only be $800, and maybe that makes a difference.
And that is far more palatable to me, so I think this is a good move for them. AMD also announced its Zen desktop CPU, a.k.a. Summit Ridge. Love these names. This is going to have 8 cores, 16 threads, promises 40% more processing power than AMD's existing, I always want to say excavator, but it's excavator chips.
Because you want to make an Excalibur, huh?
I really do. I
That's
want
a real
to pull a
throwback.
sword out of a stone. I want to become king. Manufacturers will get it in the third quarter of this year. The desktop version will be followed with models for servers and eventually desktops.
And AMD launched its 7th Gen A series APUs. They call that Advanced Processing Unit because it also has the graphics on board as well. You might have heard this codename Bristol Ridge. The A9, A6, and E2 versions of the 7th Gen A series have a 15-watt thermal design power, clock speeds of 1 gigahertz or more. Higher-end FX, A12, and A10 come in 35-watt and 15-watt variants with base clock speeds of 3.5 gigahertz and 2.4 gigahertz respectively. AMD claims the A9s use 41% less power than previous generations while watching 1080p video. And the 7th Gen APUs feature support for HDMI 2, PCIe 3, 4K, H.265 HVAC, and VP9. HP Envy X360 convertible is already on the market with the FX chip, and of course there'll be more to follow.
All right, AMD, let's see what you got. The OnePlus 3 phone will go on sale at 12:30 Eastern Time, June 14th. There's a lot of things happening right around June 14th, I've noticed. The OnePlus will not require invites in order to purchase one, although there is a really interesting quirk to this. You must join a virtual reality experience in order to order the thing right away. And if you cannot order or enter the event or be a part of the event, you can have the order opened up to everybody who wants it at oneplus.net at 3 p.m. Eastern that very same day. But that's a real interesting early adopter idea. I've not seen something like this in a while.
Yeah, I wonder why they're doing it. They gave away something like 30,000 virtual reality headsets to test this. The whole reason they did the invites before was inventory management. It allowed them to make sure that they didn't oversell and have unhappy people waiting for their Oculus Rifts. I mean, their OnePlus 3s. So this is their first step into saying, okay, we think we've got supply chain under control enough to just have a regular sale, but we're still going to do something weird. And I don't know if that's just because they know their audience is used to having some special way to get access, or whether it's just a way to stair-step the demand so that they don't crash their site. I don't know.
They could be just trying to tie their wagon to a cool in-the-know.
Yeah,
somebody in marketing said, guys, VR, it's in, it's happening, let's do this. There's no reason why we can't have a little fun with this, and it feels okay because we do strange early adopter events already. So this is our one this year. Like, I could see that meeting. The question is whether, I don't know, was this idea a year ago and now it's fizzled a little bit and people don't care as much? I don't know. It seems a little gimmicky to me, but if you'd asked me last November, I would have said, oh, this sounds great. And I don't know why that is. Maybe it's just VR came and, we're so early yet that things aren't quite as hypey as it was.
They also haven't given us a whole lot of details on this. They say it'll be a step up from the OnePlus 2, but we don't know price or anything like that.
Yep.
Google announced an update to its My Account service. A new Find Your Phone feature will let iOS as well as Android users locate, lock, call, secure an account, or leave a callback number on the screen of a lost phone. Google offered most of these functions already for Android users, but now, if you're an iOS user, it'll redirect you to the particular iCloud functions that mimic those things, like finding or locking the phone. And Google will allow you to directly call your phone or sign you out of Google services on the phone. You could already do a Google search for, quote, find my phone, and it would bring you to your Android devices. So now they'll add iOS to that, and you can soon add the phrase, I lost my phone, to that list. You just type that into Google, and it'll take you to My Account and help you find your phone. My Account can also now be launched from the Google app by saying, show me my Google account, along with the trigger phrase. And soon you can get it just by searching your name on Google. That's another thing they're added. Just do a vanity search, and suddenly it'll tell you where your phone is, which is probably in your pocket.
Big fan, by the way, of this. I like redundant security options for finding my phone. We already have a lot of two-factor authentication. Why not have two-factor? I lost my phone.
Yeah, and I think this is an interesting play to say, you know what, iOS users, we know you have some of these functions in iCloud, so we won't leave you out. We'll give you a couple of things that we can do because we own Google Voice. We can call your phone for you, and we'll just redirect you to the appropriate iCloud things as well. That is consumer friendly.
I agree. That is very consumer front-facing, and thank you very much, Google, for that. I appreciate it. At the Code Conference, Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos, the one with the great laugh, was asked why you can no longer buy an Apple TV or a Chromecast on Amazon. I can confirm this. Bezos says he wants to sell devices that support Amazon Prime Video and that whole ecosystem. And you can't always get the video player on the device with, quote, acceptable business terms, unquote. When asked whether that meant Apple's 30% cut of the profits, Bezos said that, quote, private business discussions should stay private, which is tantamount to him saying yes. Yeah,
I know, right? It kind of sounds that way. I think he said a lot here, though, by saying, we don't have Amazon Prime Video on those devices, so we're not going to sell them. And there's only one reason you don't have Amazon Prime Video on either of these, and it has to do with some kind of revenue share. Mm-hmm. And they want a better deal than everybody else gets, and so they're like, great, we won't sell your hardware until you get us a better deal on Amazon Prime Video on your platform. It's hardball.
It is hardball, and it's Apple and I assume Google with the Chromecast are playing equal hardball, and I don't suspect we're going to have this work out for anybody real soon, but man, I wish my Apple TV could just do Amazon Video Prime. If you're going to let me do it on my iPad, let me do it there. Right. I know there's differences because I can browse out and buy the stuff and then go back, but do something. Like, even if it means I just sign into my Prime account. Like, I don't understand why I can't just sign it. Well, I guess that's the Apple side. So, yeah, they're just going to keep fighting, and we're going to keep getting screwed.
Why do I have the ability to sign into Amazon Video on the I mean, I guess he must want to include store access without the 30%, because I can watch Amazon Video on my iPad, like you say. I just don't have access to the store because he doesn't want to give 30% to Apple. And I guess he's saying, you know what, it's stupid to have that on Apple TV without the access to the store.
That is probably the thinking. And so here's what I do to get around it. We've had some things we wanted to see on the big screen, but can only get it on Amazon, or want to get it on Amazon, and I do often want to get it there. You can still do it through AirPlay and have it show up on the screen. I don't know that that's optimal. It's an extra step. It's a pain in the butt for people.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of with the idea that they should come to some sort of agreement, but hardball is hardball, and they call it hardball for a reason. So
yeah, because it hurts.
We're in it for the long run.
If you don't catch it, it hurts. Finally, Samsung announced a 512 gigabyte PCIe solid-state drive with non-volatile memory express. You'll hear that called NVMe. That's half the size of a postage stamp. And I'm not talking one of those supersized postage stamps, just their average postage stamp. The snappily named PM971 NVMe uses a single-ball grid array that packs in 16 VNAND flash chips, your DRAM, and your controller in 20 millimeters by 16 millimeters by 1.5 millimeters of space.
Crazy.
Samsung claims it can reach read and write speeds of up to 1,500 megabytes per second and 900 bytes per second, respectively. Samsung will start providing the new SSDs to customers this month worldwide. That is a tiny 512 gigabyte flash drive.
That is amazing, and that just I didn't know we'd get there so quickly. I didn't know we'd get this small. This just means you could stack a bunch of those if you wanted and have an incredible array in a very small space.
Oh yeah, super thin laptops with lots of storage.
Yeah, that's
been my dream.
Yeah, it's eventually storage isn't going to matter anymore. I'm not going to have to check to see if there's room on my drives for something.
I thought that was going to happen already, but when we made the transition to solid state, which I definitely find advantageous, suddenly we had to hold back for because it was more expensive. Because I could have like a 5 terabyte magnetic drive in my laptop right now.
Sure. But
relatively
backwards, right? Like things went from, I'm now getting 2 terabyte mechanical drives, but if I want this new fancy SSD stuff, I got to start at like 80 gigabyte. That's
right.
So yeah,
now we're finally starting to catch up.
Yeah. Same with iPods and phones, for example. That was a big change, going from like, a gigabyte on your iPod to 16 gig or 4 gig or whatever it was on the original phone.
8 gig? How did I live?
I don't know.
Thanks to everybody who submitted things we used from our subreddit. Submit stories and vote on them at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. You guys are the best. Big thanks to our moderators, Scotty Rowland, Kyle, Seb Gons, TG Stellar, and Jack Shid, who make sure that all of that stuff works great, and you can get in there and moderate. You can't moderate. Leave that to them. You can get in there and submit stories and vote on them. If you got nothing else to do, go stop by. There's like 6,000 people in there submitting stories, so you can join them or just vote on the ones they've submitted at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. And that is a look at the headlines. So for years, Kleiner Perkins Mary Meeker has compiled a yearly look at stats and trends that has become highly anticipated by almost everybody in technology. Among the highlights in this year's report that she gave at the Code Conference, internet adoption flat year over year at 9%. So it grew 9%, but that's the same as last year. Internet is only reaching 42% of the world's population, or is already reaching 42% of the world's population, depending on how you look at it. India is leading the charge there. They passed the United States to become the #2 global user market behind China. Other things, live video is a skyrocketing trend led by Snapchat and Facebook. Messaging is being dominated by Facebook and Facebook's WhatsApp, as well as China's WeChat. And she argues that messaging is becoming our new home screen, especially led by the Asian messaging apps like KakaoTalk and Line that give you services beyond messaging. So people are starting to live in their messaging app. Google and Facebook control 76% of the ad market and rising, and she says that advertisers are not moving to internet and mobile fast enough because that's where the eyeballs are. So it's still affordable, and there's still a lot more growth to come there. She also said his voice recognition goes from being 95% accurate to 99% accurate. It's going to make all the difference. It's going to get much better. Google and Android see 20% of searches from voice, and Amazon Echo sales continue to grow. She said finally also that tech might be bringing the auto industry back to the U.S., but car ownership is going to fall. She talked a little bit about self-driving cars and gave some reasonable projections about when we'll get there, which is far away. She even put a question mark under driverless cars, like not having to have a driver in the car at all. We don't know when we're going to get there. But the assisted driving, there's like 5 official classes of autonomous cars, and some of them are coming in the next few years. But also just Uber and Lyft and ride sharing is reducing the need for some people to buy a car. So, Scott, we looked through this, and there's loads to talk about, more than we could ever talk about. But a couple of the things that we noticed was this note that she said that easy growth is behind us. Mm-hmm. And she talks about population is not growing as fast, the economies are not growing as fast, internet users obviously not growing as fast, and smartphone shipments not growing as fast. So we mentioned internet growth is flat, and India is leading the charge. One of the problems here is that developed markets are saturated. There aren't many people who don't have internet or phones that don't want them, and the developing markets are harder to penetrate because of cost. In some countries, a smartphone costs 10% of your per capita income, at least 1 to 10%. In all the developed countries, they usually cost 1% or less. But user growth is slowing. It's still growing on smartphones, but 21% this year versus 31% last year, so it's slowing down. Shipments slowed even more dramatically, 10% to 28%. And the largest market for smartphones is Asia Pacific. That went from 35% growth a year ago to 23% growth. So things are slowing down, Scott. That's it. It's all over. We're going to have to make this the weekly tech show because it's just not going to be news, right?
Well, I don't think you're going to have any trouble with that. But I think this line, this quote, easy growth is behind us, is a really important point. And remembering that this person, Mary, is kind of prophetic when it comes to, prophetic, everybody, all right? I make sure I get the right word out. Where we are with chat apps, something she mentions in this report, is kind of something she predicted in previous years to a pretty striking degree, how important those things would become. And I remember talking to you about this maybe a year ago, going, I don't know if this chat thing's going to really, and look at us now, right?
What are they supposed to do, sell stickers?
Exactly. But this idea that you can't just say, all right, well, we've conquered America, Europe, and now we've got China on board, and whoever you are, with whatever product you have, you're like, all right, what other countries haven't got this stuff yet? You're starting to butt up against actual obstacles that are a little bit more meaningful and not just, oh, we didn't know we could do this yet. You're starting to run into economic things and cultural things and other reasons why the market share itself is becoming a thing you have to work really hard to get your share of. And I think this is actually good for the industry. I am no economist, but it seems to me that they're going to be forced, they meaning Google and Amazon and Apple and everybody who wants a piece of this pie as it quote unquote shrinks or becomes more, more or less, penetrated. They're going to have to be better at what they do to maintain who they have and to take from the others what they want. And as brutal as that sounds, that is a reality of that particular level of corporate strategy, and I think it's actually good for us. We'll end up having a more competitive market out there. They're not, obviously this report is really not talking about us. We are part of the saturated market. So it will be interesting to see if we make inroads in other places in the world, but there are so many different kinds of obstacles up. It isn't just which phone should I get, or I don't like this operating system, or do I really need 25 gigabytes more than you do. Those aren't their questions. Their questions are, do we make any money at all? Is this country even have clean water, let alone an infrastructure to support phones? Like it's a whole different kind of thing. So how these companies react in the next couple of years will be very telling about their future, I think.
Yeah, and one of the things you have to do if you're looking at a market that's saturated and you're saying, okay, clock's ticking. We saw Apple do this with iPods. Yeah, clock's ticking on music players. We need to come up with something else. And they very successfully went into the smartphone market. And at the time, I think we've all forgotten, it was very surprising to see Apple go into the smartphone market. Meeker points out that iPhone sales may have peaked in 2015. Mm-hmm. They certainly it looked like they might have. Now we were too close to the time period to tell for sure if it's just a waver in the chart as it slows down or if it's actually going to decline. But she points out that as that peak seems to have happened, Amazon Echo sales are just beginning to take off. And then quotes Andrew Ng from Baidu, one of their research scientists, I think the leading research scientist, by 2020, voice and image-based searches are going to make up at least 50% of all searches. So she says voice assistants, whether they're on your phone or whether they're in a dedicated device like Amazon Echo, are one of the big next platforms. She says in 2015, 65% of smartphone owners surveyed were using their voice assistants. May 2016, 1 in 5 searches on Android was voice-based. Baidu Voice has seen output, which is text-to-speech, grow 26 times since Q2 2014, and input, which is you talking to the phone, grow 4 times. And she's like, there's a lot of reasons for this. We speak 150 words a minute on average, and yes, some of you can type faster, but most of us on average type around 40 words per minute, so you can get more out by talking to something, and it's lower cost to build an Amazon Echo or a Google Home or whatever Apple might come out with, because you need a mic, a speaker, and a processor. That's it. A little bit of connectivity in there.
Yeah, and you're starting to see those two things happen. Two things are happening in tandem. One is that we are accepting the idea more and more as a technologically bound people to say our questions, to ask our devices to do things. We're more and more comfortable with it, and at the same time, they are, sometimes very incrementally and slowly, but they are getting better at understanding our natural language, the way that we're speaking. The algorithms just get better and better and better. We will get to some point, I'm not going to call it a singularity, but we're going to get to some point where it will be able to distinguish, it will be indistinguishable between me saying something to my wife and me saying something to my device. And if I say, I'm kind of hungry, I could go for some eggs and bacon. And my kitchen device will go, no problem, we'll have it here in a minute. Like, that is not sounding so sci-fi to me anymore. And in fact, I was telling you in the Slack before the show, to me it's a step past the Star Trek computer, which seems like the holy grail. We're all aiming for this omnipotent computer that can just answer our questions, do what we need it to do when we need it to do it. And this is even beyond that. This is natural language and easy conversation, and not a device that has trouble distinguishing accents and just can intuit a lot of what you're trying to say. We're getting closer to that, and these numbers bear that out, in my opinion, and they will only grow, and that changes everything. Like, that's a game changer across the board. Desktops, mobile, everything changes because how we need to interact and what we need to do. If it comes down to mostly talking to something, tons of form factors are no longer needed. The way things function in our computer lives completely get flip-flopped in a lot of ways. Like, it could be a real deep cutting change in, I don't know, 10 years maybe. I don't know what the prediction is, and this certainly isn't our forecast segment on Current Geek, but it does feel like a big thing to me.
Well, Biden is saying 50% of all searches by 2020. So, this is not, I mean, our words per minute are probably relating to English, but we're talking about, it doesn't matter what language you speak.
Right.
In fact, in some languages like Chinese, where it's really slow to type, this is getting faster adoption because it's just so much easier to speak to something than to try to type, especially on a mobile phone. And it's funny, we've got KV87 in our chat room saying, I don't know, I have to yell at mine or speak in a really robotic way. It still doesn't feel natural yet. And he's not wrong.
Yeah, he's not wrong at all.
That is where we are now. That is what she was saying when I mentioned that going from 95% accuracy to 99% accuracy is going to make all the difference. We're coming from a world of 80% or less accuracy. So the stuff we have in our homes isn't as good as what they're able to do yet, and they're getting better at it all the time. She showed the growth over the past 5 years of voice recognition accuracy. And yeah, you don't want to wait 10 seconds for an answer. You don't want to have to restate your question in exactly the right voice. That's going away. That's what Meeker's pointing out, is like, these were the impediments up until now, and we are getting past those.
Yeah, the difference is saying, what's traffic like? Siri, what's traffic like on the I-15? And doing it in that meh, 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 and hoping for an answer, versus me going, what's traffic like on I-15? And that thing telling me immediately without any hesitation. That's the 5% we're talking about. We're talking about this little bit of sort of natural language space. It's the long tail of this thing. Once we hit that, oh man, all bets are off. Everything changes.
Well, and one of the impediments personally that I have, I don't use Cortana or Siri because I don't want to have to push the button.
Right.
And so, hey, and then the name Cortana is a life changer. Or, saying the name that you have assigned to your Amazon Echo is a life changer because no longer do I have to push the button to make it do the thing. I can just talk. That impediment made all the difference in me using voice assistants.
Yeah, and it's literally that Star Trek, that thing they did on the show, which was computer, and it would go boop boop, and you'd immediately start talking to it. That's where we're there now to that point. I'm starting to feel like, especially in Google's side of things, I think Google's probably got the best in terms of actual information it can give you, and the broadest base of information because again it's Google and they have that information. That I feel like is Star Trek computer level stuff. Outside of being able to build me a hologram to go play, whatever, they've kind of nailed that level of it. What we're talking about is just a step above that, where it is like talking to people. And the minute we can do this, go watch The Expanse and watch Miller talk to his little phone device, and you'll understand the kind of language I'm talking about, audience. And once we hit that, I'm telling you, all bets are off, and my whole life changes, and I'm ready for it. I don't care if it happens when I'm 90 and I'm set in my ways in every other way. That is a huge deal. And it would be good enough to be able to distinguish between a 90-year-old's cracky voice and a young person's voice and somebody with a Chinese accent and somebody speaking full Mandarin, and across the board. That's where we're headed. If we don't think we're headed there, then we are short-sighted, because I think this stuff is all adding up to that.
And there's so many things that become an advantage with this sort of behavior. You have context. You have the ability to just carry on a conversation. It is not there right now, and we still see a lot of people in the chat room like, yeah, but you have to do this and you have to do that to make it work. And like, yeah, that's where we've come. In a couple of years, that's where we've come to, is like you can talk. Sure, you can talk to your device. You couldn't talk to your devices a few years ago. I mean, I remember on Windows, I want to say it was Windows 3.1, I had a mic and a speech recognition program that blew people's minds because I had trained it. You had to train it to recognize next,
Yeah.
enter. That they're like, oh my gosh, you're controlling your computer. Like, we have come from that to being able to speak largely in natural language. And our big complaints are like, it doesn't always understand what I say, or I have to talk slowly. Like, those problems are going away. Like, the improvements keep coming fast.
I would tell you, as a small anecdote, here's a modern day miracle in my opinion. I had some old Metallica playing in the kitchen on the Echo. It's playing through my phone. I was just using it as a Bluetooth device, and it was playing pretty loud, and we had a bunch of people coming over for Memorial Day for a barbecue, and they all came in, and everyone's talking, and it's loud, and I'm even starting to feel like I better probably turn the music down. And my wife, who's just rushing around trying to get food everywhere and do everything, she suddenly just pops her head up out of what she was doing and she goes, Alexa, turn it down. And it did, and she did it in a way that wasn't, Alexa, turn down the music. It wasn't like that. It was like, just turn it down, and she did. And that's crazy that worked.
Yeah.
And then later I could say resume, and it would come back up and play again or whatever.
And that's going to be the norm.
Yeah, I
like
love
that. That is unusual with the Echo. Let's not oversell it. Like, that happened to work because she happened to yell the thing that it's trained to listen, and yelled it in just the right level that she heard it and everything.
Sure.
But that's just going to be how it works. That will become the 99% way it works.
I'm ready.
In the future. I think it's really interesting. So yeah, that and the fact that Snapchat. I just want to go back to that stickers comment that we used to always make. And I made it too. Like, I don't know. And I was making it like, I guess they can make enough on stickers. Oh no, they're coming up with all kinds. We're talking about Kakao Talk and Line in Japan. They have become platforms for booking cabs, doing online shopping, all kinds of things that bring them money because they get a little cut of everything you do. But Snapchat's even selling advertisements, making way more money than they did when they sold the lenses, because you want to turn your head into a taco. 224 million viewers for Taco Bell's Cinco de Mayo lens that turned your head into a taco.
Yeah.
That's an ad. That was an ad.
Yeah, those are, and they're being, sometimes they're I wouldn't call them. Well, here's what they're doing. They realize that people using Snapchat on the regular, there's value in putting a taco on your head because, yeah, it's funny, and yeah, it's going to make your friends laugh, and yeah, it's going to maybe last 48 hours before everyone's sick of it, but you're thinking about tacos, and you're thinking about Taco Bell, and you're going to go. So it's really smart. I don't know what it says about us. I'm a little worried about that psychology, but hey, man, whatever it takes to grow your...
listen, man, I know there's that one person out there like, I'm not fooled by that. I don't go to Taco Bell. You're right. You're special. The rest of us,
yeah,
we were getting Mexi Melts.
I want to go right now. You're just talking about it now, and I want to go to Taco Bell. So,
let's get to our pick of the day. John A. from Whatever the Weather Feels Like Being Massachusetts says, in a previous episode, you mentioned not using the function keys with OS X because they don't do what they're supposed to do sometimes. I used to not use them for the same reason, and then I came across Function Flip from Kevin Gessner at kevingessner.com. It's a preference pane that allows you to individually switch each function key from its shortcut key to its standard F key. It hasn't been updated since 2013, but it does work with OS X 10.7 Lion and up. Sometimes it doesn't start in login and you have to manually start it, but this rarely happens. And for me, it's a small price to pay to get my function keys back, so it may not be for everybody because you have to do a little tweaking and maintenance with it. But if you're like, you know what, I want F5 to be F5. I don't want it to be dim the brightness. You could use this to make it F5 again or assign whatever you want to it.
That's pretty cool. My function keys are completely... I'm looking at my keyboard now. They're now that I think about it, outside of the volume keys, I don't use any of these. So it'd be nice to have them back. Yeah, I'm going to try.
What I was actually saying when I said they don't work is half the time I like press the volume up and it's like, oh, it doesn't work with that app. But that piece of software doesn't recognize that key for whatever reason.
Right. No,
also, like the brightness thing works, but one of the other ones? A lot of times the volume ones just don't work.
My brightnesses don't work, but I've got my brightnesses. Anyway, my bright keys don't work because I think the monitor I have is just not supported, so that just doesn't happen. Otherwise, the monitor's fine. What else? I guess the play forward and back work for music, but only in iTunes as far as I know. So there's a lot of wasted space over here.
Send your picks to us, folks. Feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com. You can find more picks at dailytechnewsshow.com/picks. A couple messages before we get out of here. Gary in Minnesota said, yesterday you were discussing tech things that were all the rage and then disappeared. You mentioned how netbooks were all the rage but have now disappeared. I'd argue that the term netbook has been replaced by Chromebook. Same idea, just came to fruition with a different name.
Yeah, but you could also make the argument that Chromebooks haven't penetrated much either. In terms of
they're on the rise.
They are on the rise,
yeah.
For sure. And I hope that they continue because I really like them. And this, being able to run Android apps on them natively and all this stuff's really cool. And I kind of want a new one. But I also would argue that the term netbook faded away, not because something very specifically a quote-unquote netbook went away, but because MacBooks got thinner and Chromebooks came out and other computing devices from other manufacturers, tiny little thin things from Dell came out that aren't technically called netbooks, but all of the other stuff we expect from a laptop are in there, and they're small now, so what's the difference? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and to me, there's a part of what netbook was supposed to be, which is like, oh, you just live online and you use the netbook. Chromebook has definitely taken that standard up, and I think that's what Gary means. Yeah. The other part of netbook was it's a tiny little computer that fits in your pocket. Not your pocket, but your bag. Mm-hmm. And that Chromebook has not. The Chromebooks are full-size 12, 13-inch screens and the larger.
Yeah, the tiny part of it is definitely not there either. But then again, the market decided it didn't want that. It also didn't want tablets in 2002 that had fans in them and were blowing on your hand the whole time you were using them. And so we waited till that stuff made more sense, and now we have tiny little thin, very powerful devices like that. And nobody's denying the power of a tablet today, despite their decline. But yeah, I know I see what his point is, and I say long live Chromebooks. I hope they can keep supporting those things because they're awesome.
And then yesterday, Patrick Beja and I were talking about how for him it was June 1st, and we were just debating whether that was spring yet or not, because he said that he has always gone, as I do, by the solstice as the beginning of spring, but that some people go by the first of the month. And Mark, the unofficial DTNS meteorologist, wrote in to weigh in on the start of summer. I'm sorry, I said spring, I meant summer. He said, you should know that boreal summer, that's the northern hemisphere, starts June 1st as far as the weather enterprise is concerned. Most often you'll find us making the seasonal breaks as June, July, August, September, October, November, et cetera, in 3-month blocks. So do not be pressured by solstice equinox lovers. It is just fine to say June 1st is the start of summer and white pant wearing season.
So they break it up into quarters. That's super interesting. I didn't even realize that. Nor did I know they referred to themselves as the Weather Enterprise.
Yes, the Weather Enterprise.
That's cool.
You want to get out of that drought? Talk to the Weather Enterprise. Thank you, Mark, for the unofficial DTNS meteorologist. I love that we have an unofficial DTNS meteorologist. This is great. And thank you, Scott Johnson. What's going on? What do you got to tell folks about?
Oh, so many things, too many things. We got that Warcraft movie coming up. You're coming. It's next week. It's a week from tomorrow. So come on. Well, no, you're coming a week from tomorrow, and then it's like 2 days after that is the movie.
Yeah. Saturdays is where we're going.
Yeah.
Movie opens Friday, though, right?
That is correct. One exciting point I wanted to talk about, and that is that during E3, while I will not be in LA for the proceedings of E3, and don't think that that's not a bad thing, that's a good thing. Nobody really wants to be there. But we're going to be doing a ton of coverage from right here. Myself and Patrick Beja will be back in Finland by then, are going to cover all the conferences live. We'll be doing live commentary during them and some stuff after, a lot of sum-up sort of things, and maybe even sneak some Apple in there depending on when people are on stage and how we can sort of jive the two. But very much looking forward to that. So if you're interested in that at all, you're going to want to bookmark the page, frogpants.com/live. That's where it'll be. As soon as E3 conferences start, you can count on us being there. We'll also probably put them on YouTube after. So just want people to be thinking about that. For details or changes or whatever, follow me on Twitter at Scott Johnson.
Excellent. Thank you to everyone who supports the show. We exist entirely because of you. And we've got some milestones. If you've been putting off supporting the show, we're talking like $1 a month or more. It's not a lot. If you can and are willing to support the show, we're trying to get to the point where we can extend our Australian coverage from Peter Wells to every week. Right now he does it 2 times a month. We also have a weekly or monthly roundtable. Might get weekly if we get far enough, though. So anyway, support the show if you can. dailytechnewsshow.com/support or patreon.com/DTNS. Big thanks to everybody who already supports us. It's June 1st, so I sent out the links to the treasure chest, the business cards you get if you're a co-executive producer level, invited people in the Slack at the analyst level, so be on the lookout at patreon.com/DTNS for that. Our Tech and Travel from Chris Christensen on the audio show discussed using an app for your passport and passport control, and Big Jim had some added facts about that because he deals with that on the immigration side. So if you are listening to the audio show, stay tuned for Big Jim's clarification, or you can find it in the treasure chest if you're supporting us at that level as well. Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. You can give us a call, 512-593-2459. That's 512-59-DAILY. Catch the show live Monday through Friday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern at alphageekradio.com and diamondclub.tv. Visit our website, dailytechnewsshow.com. Back tomorrow with Justin Robert Young. Talk to you then.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Well done.
A fine audio program and
What
video.
should we call that body that was ready?
I don't know. Roger, you got any good ones? Oh, he's got Sleeping Baby.
He would like to call it Sleeping Baby. Well, you can go to showbot.tv.
Yeah, we can do that.
Showbot TV. I will add that around 2. I can do it after the titles. Top, we have Do You Understand the Words That Are Coming Out of My Mouth? I believe that is a reference to...
Do you understand
The words that are coming out of my mouth.
Scott finally pronounces Xiaomi right.
I noticed that. What?
Listen, it's not going to be our title, but thank you for noticing.
Yeah, that was. I had my hand on the button, and you were like, "No, I got this."
Here in America, we don't put X's in front of our words.
Yes, it's Christmas.
Yeah, that's true.
Professor Xavier. There is one for
X-ray.
Said no wait. What happened to the Simmer Down, Alexa.
Simmer
Raising
down,
your voice.
Alexa. That's pretty good.
There's also raising your voice. in parentheses, assistant usage. It's a pretty short list today. Maybe people haven't.
Hey, I'm talking here.
Hey, I'm talking here. That's not bad.
Computer, make me some eggs. I like that. I really like that for some reason. I don't know why.
Make me some eggs. All right.
Because it has a bit of Star Trek in it.
Yeah. Should we go with computer, make me some eggs, or am I nuts?
I like that one.
Let's do it.
I like it.
Well timed, Steve I.
Hmm?
You caught me at the right moment.
Well done, sir.
Computer,
Listen,
make
I
me
like.
some eggs.
I repeat. I appreciate all of the votes for my pronunciation.
Those are votes of love.
A special mention though goes to ICU's AI. I'm talking here. I think that's funny. AI, I'm talking here. If you do,
Miss Terpster.
he does the worst New York guy.
It's the best. It's the best worst.
He told me the funniest story. We were on Hypothetical Help, and he was talking about that viral video of him and Hodor there at the
Christian Nairn.
Yeah, that whole thing. And he said the part nobody knows about is they were all at that screening in London, and he can't fit in normal seats at all because he's so tall.
Oh yeah, he's a big guy.
So he has to, when he does that, he has to sit out in the aisle with the steps, like where people walk down to go get their seats, and he has to sit in the middle there for a whole movie because there's nothing big enough to take a guy who's 6'11". So there you go. And he did it willingly. He's like, yeah, I'm used to this.
It's just the way he lives his life, I guess. I mean, he is just I mean, that's why he plays Hodor. He's a very tall person.
Enormous person. He's just formidable and the sweetest guy.
Yeah, we've had him on Sword and Laser, and he's so nice. He's a big Warcraft fan.
Yeah, he's been on the instance twice. He's so nice on there, and he's always been just willing to. He wants to come on again. We keep talking about it. I think he may have more time now, but no.
Wait a minute. Why is that? Spoiler.
I'm just saying. Much
because
like
they're not shooting right now.
in season 5, there was, they didn't need any scenes, so he'd had some time away.
That's true. That's true. That's all you're saying.
So I was going to add around at 2 o'clock and 2:14. Tom, your voice was kind of echoey for like maybe 10 seconds or so, and then it went back to normal.
Yeah, I heard that too.
Oh, you did?
In fact, I hear it right now.
Oh, I hear that on Roger's speakers, but not when he's muted.
So I'm going to mute myself.
Okay, yeah. Now I don't hear it.
Yeah, I never heard it. So it was happening.
So it wasn't like it was being picked up by someone's microphone and then broadcast out their speaker. It felt like maybe a codec delay or something.
Yeah.
But if you didn't hear it, Scott, it probably didn't make it it probably was just on my end.
Yeah, at least I didn't notice it. I've heard it before on the show, but then you guys didn't notice it, like Tom.
Now I hear it again.
Oh yeah, because I'm using the mic on my webcam.
Yeah, last week, Tom had a moment where it sounded like he digitally stuttered through something.
No, I figured that out.
Yeah.
That was actually the computer memory. I had to restart because it caused a problem with something I recorded too. That was a different thing though.
Oh, okay. All good.
Yeah, unless we could figure out what it was, I don't know what to do about it.
Okay.
Minor.
Sounds minor.
Rare and minor.
Sounds like a NAMBLA meeting.
While you're holding a baby.
She doesn't know what that is yet.
It sounds like a NAMBLA meeting. That was funny. And creepy, but funny. That really made
If
me
you'd
laugh.
like more of this kind of wisdom, check out East Meets West. I really liked their episode last night.
It was good.
Yeah, it was a new episode.
All new episodes, a new season of the best of East Meets West.
I'd love to hear it.
Seasons. Yeah, if we counted seasons by like every 4 years.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. When we did episode 1, I called the album title "The Best of East Meets West" as a joke to myself because we only have one episode. This is the best of East Meets West. That's the album title in the ID3 tags ever since.
Nice.
So now it's a joke on the other end of like every single episode is the best of East Meets West. They're all the best. You can't have a favorite episode.
They're the
Yeah.
best. All right.
Although, I mean,
That's like having a favorite dog.
you have multiple children.
Tom,
Do your kids ever bug you to like, who do you like the best?
No, we've never had that conversation that I know of. I don't think Kim has either. No, we're once in a while, like I'll say something that's specific to one of their sets of talents or something. Like if Carter draws, so I'll say to her, or they both the kids will be in the house, and I'll say, "Hey, Carter, you got to come look at this. You'd totally appreciate this." And then Nick will go, "Oh, because I wouldn't." Like he'd say something like that.
Okay.
Then I'm like, "You get over here too, if you want to." Like we usually blur right through it. But no, they've never done that whole like who's your favorite or any of that.
Do you ever say no? You can come look, but you won't appreciate it.
Yeah, you won't appreciate it.
You won't like it.
Yeah, because you're not the one that would like it.
You'll think it's dumb. I'm just saying.
We try really hard not to label them, but
Yeah.
You're not my favorite, so you're not gonna see this.
Tom, you'll appreciate this. I got a private IM from The Path on Hulu. They had seen me tweet about how much I like the soundtrack and enjoyed the season, so they sent me this message that says, "Hello, friend. We have reason to believe you're interested in climbing the ladder with us. The Meyerist movement has something special to mail you. If you're interested, please respond with your full name and address. We promise not to share it or store it in the future." And
Weird.
so I think they're sending me a T-shirt.
Oh, okay.
Anyway.
I assume that's all in universe language.
Oh yeah. It's the show's all about like some weird cult and
Right.
and I still watch the entire.
What if
Jesse
the
Pinkman
show is actually run by a cult? This is their way. Like you just think it's marketing to begin with. Next thing you know, you're in Guyana.
Well, I'm going to admit something here. Part of me read that, and it felt creepy. Like just part of me was like, ugh. It's like let's take it down a notch, guys. Like it's already weird in the show. Let's but then I backed off and everything.
Are you sure you were supposed to read that out loud? I mean.
Yeah, as far as I know now. Oh wait, the door's being knocked. I'm not what's happening. It's sounding awfully hard. I don't know what's happening.
Or the phone rings.
Oh man.
Do you watch Wayward Pines?
No, but I've heard it's awesome.
That's their deal. Is like the phone rings. That means something.
Do you like it?
It's fine. Like if I squint, I can pretend I'm watching Twin Peaks, kind of.
Okay, but it's that kind of.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad.
I'm into that.
It's kept me interested.
Okay. I like that kind of stuff.
Yeah. The biggest problem is they're sort of trying to split the difference between an anthology show and a series. So they're picking up a few years after last season, and with a new main character.
Mm.
And so I'm like, okay, let's see where we go with this, I guess.
Yeah, sometimes that stuff works, I guess.
Yeah.
Do you have you heard? You know who Joe Hill is, right? The Stephen King.
That's Stephen King's son.
Yeah.
I read Lock and Key.
Okay, so his new book, Fireman, supposed to be really, really cool. It's about people who spontaneously combust. But here's my question. Why is it that I'm so interested in that kind of genre fiction? It's totally interesting to me.
What, the spontaneously combustible?
That or like his dad's book, The Stand, is one of my favorite books of all time.
Sure. Okay.
Like, I love like not necessarily zombie apocalyptic fiction necessarily, but I love end of world stories.
Oh man, yeah, I love apocalypse stuff.
I just can't get enough of it.
I don't know what it is. Yeah, I think it's a fascination with the fact that we're not.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's weird. I wonder if you would like the. So I'm in the middle of the second book, but there's a series called the Hater series. I don't know if I've heard of it, but it's this British author, and it's all set in London. There's a lot of Britishisms in it, but it's there's this point in time where people changed. They became labeled haters, but basically what happened is they changed, and if anyone around them was not changed with them, they would have an uncontrollable urge to murder everybody who wasn't them.
Oh, wow.
And it became
So
this.
it's a little more than hating.
Yeah, they just call them haters, but they basically divide society into two chunks: the unchanged, or just normal people trying to survive, and then the haters, who, if they're among their own kind of other change, they're fine. They're just like normal society, and they're trying to survive as well, but they cannot coexist with those who were not changed. It's this weird idea of like almost like they went rabid in only one way, and that's just against those who aren't them.
Now, if you are hating on the haters on Twitter,
yeah,
you're just a hater.
Then you're a hater, and then if you are a skateboarder, you're a hater skater.
Okay.
With an 8 in it, though.
Right, obviously.
Anyway, the reason I say that is just
yeah, no, that's intriguing.
I love that stuff. I don't know what it is. I'm way more interested in stories about what if than I am about what is sometimes. Maybe that's reflective of just where I'm at right now. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it's more entertaining because I don't know. I'm tempted to say a lot of flippant things like, well, I got enough drama in my life without, reliving somebody else's.
Right.
I had a hard enough time growing up without reading about somebody else growing up.
Yeah.
But that's just silly. Like, if it's really well done, it's still fascinating.
Sure.
But yeah, I'm maybe there's just sort of a need for escapism or something. I don't know.
And I feel like I'm doing this with comics too. Like I'm way more into this Comixology subscription than I would be Marvel Unlimited, because I don't know. I just feel like I'm getting stories that I haven't heard already.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is. I'm interested in things that aren't just rehashes, or if they are, they have such a unique twist that it just throws me.
And I think it ties in a little bit into the spoiler stuff.
Mm.
Because what people who are really against spoilers are like, I'm in it for being surprised, right? And what is one of the biggest nitpicks of a movie is like, it was so predictable.
Right.
A mainstream literary fiction story about coming of age is entirely predictable because she's going to come of age, right? Like, that's how it ends. Puberty is over.
Yeah.
Like,
people that like rom-coms, like my wife loves dresses. I sat down and watched it with her, and I went, "Oh."
You get if you're looking for unpredictability and a story that surprises you, then that's not the right kind of story. You get something else out of those stories. You get to live the emotions of those people. And if you're not interested in that, you're like, I don't really want to live the emotions of those people. Then that kind of story is not going to appeal to you. I don't know. That's my best guess.
I think you're probably right. I think that's why I like this season of Game of Thrones so much, because it's all stuff we haven't been told yet.
Yeah.
And it's not just, story points or spoilers in those story points, but I just feel like new things are happening that I didn't already get previewed because I read the books. I don't know. I'm really enjoying this season, though. Holy crap.
Me too.
This
last episode was a little slower.
Yeah, maybe compared to the rest of the season so far. I mean, that final Mel Gibson out on the Scottish Plains speech by Daenerys on the dragon was something else, man. That was great. I mean, there were moments like that, but generally speaking, Also, I'm going to get into spoiler territory, but Arya's storyline was abrupt, I thought. Kind of,
Yeah, it feels like they're skipping through a lot, and obviously they are, to get us somewhere a little faster. Because I'm like, really? We spent all that time with Jaqen Hagar? Like,
that was a lot.
Maybe it pays off. Maybe something something she has learned will come up.
I think she will, and it will, and I think she'll defeat who. But I just like I've really liked that, and I've been willing to go slow with that because I find that fascinating. There's something very gothic and weird about that whole bit, and then have it all turn on a dime like that it kind of threw me a little bit. Good though, really good.
All right. Well, that is it for us. Thanks all for watching, and we will talk to you tomorrow.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, Ellie.
Bye, Ellie.